was another stellar month for the portfolio this month. After last month being up over 40%, this month I've got another over 20% gain. That's almost £27,000 extra in the portfolio than I had at this time last month. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly where that money is in my portfolio, how each section of my portfolio is done, and future plans as we head into 2024. Hello! So for those of you who haven't seen any of my videos before, my name is Chaz and I'm the Risk On Investor. The aim of this channel is to document my path to building a £1 million investment portfolio. You can see the previous videos by heading over to my channel page, but the channel's still pretty new at this stage, so there's only a couple of videos. The channel is called the Risk On Investor because I'm well aware that the investment routes that I'm planning to take are much higher risk than the average person is going to be taking with their portfolio. None of the content that's on my channel or in this video is financial advice, it's purely my own journey and you can follow along for the ride. So let's dive into the numbers. So at the moment I've split my portfolio into 4 segments: my pension, cash, my stocks and shares ISA and crypto. I don't include my own primary residence in my net worth, however if I bought some buy-to-lets in the future that would be included in the portfolio. So the key stats are: my pension is up 32.11%, so it's now broken the £70,000 barrier, which I'm really happy about. My pension is split across 2 accounts. There's my SIP, which is self-directed, and there's my employer pension, which is just with a large provider. The employer workplace pension is much smaller than my SIP. I've transferred out in the past to my SIP, so it just retains a couple of £1,000s in it, and that's just invested in a global market tracker. Unfortunately, the fees are fairly high with the provider that my workplace uses, so I'm not contributing actively to that pension. My SIP, on the other hand, is with AJ Bell at the moment. I went with AJ Bell just because the fees are pretty low, and also there's a really big selection of investment products I can pick from, and that's worked out really well for me in the last couple of months, as my pension in my SIP has gone from around 35,000 to around 65,000 since I took direct control of that SIP. The second part of my portfolio is my cash reserves, so that's used for everyday spending, that's money that's left on hand for investing if a good opportunity comes up, and that's actually up about 55%. Now, it's a little bit misleading, the number there. I've reduced some of my crypto holdings and transferred that into cash for now, and that additional cash is to the tune of about £8,000 that's appeared this month from my crypto holdings. But that does mean that my cash reserves have breached £15,000, which is really good because there's more information on that coming soon in a future video, so subscribe if you haven't already. The third section of my portfolio is my stocks and shares ISA. So my stocks and shares ISA is currently with Trading 212. Whilst I'm not a massive fan of the information that Trading 212 gives you, I think there's a lot that's left to be desired in terms of the company fundamentals and just background data on the products that you're buying on the Trading 212 platform. It is a really good platform in terms of it's cheap and it's quick and easy to keep track of your portfolio. My stocks and shares ISA unfortunately hasn't had any contributions for some time, but that hasn't mattered again too much this month. It's up over 30%. And my stocks and shares ISA actually follows the same investment pattern that my pension does, and I'll dive into that in a little bit as well. And finally, my crypto portfolio is up around 5% on last month's value. Now again, as I mentioned in the cash section, that's a little bit misleading because I've moved out a fair chunk of money from my crypto to be sitting into cash, so it's great to see that even though I've done that, it's still up month to month. So that means the total portfolio is up 22.5% this month, and that's with no additional contributions from me, and that means a total portfolio change of £26,699, which is absolutely incredible and puts me about 14% of the way to my £1 million investment goal. Now, I'm under no illusions, the last few months have been absolutely incredible in the markets, and so since I've started this channel about a month or so ago, it's only been up markets. The real challenges will come when there's down markets. Staying invested, staying with my thesis, and just watching the portfolio bleed for a little while, knowing that there's good times still to come in the future. So I just want to dive a little bit into what I'm actually invested in, because I've not really covered it in that much detail in previous videos. So the SIP section of my pension and my stocks and shares ISA pretty much mirror each other. The only difference being is the magnitude of the holdings, with the pensions being about 10 times bigger than the stocks and shares ISA at the moment. Both of those are really heavily invested in a single stock, and that stock is Microstrategy. It's a bit of an unusual choice, but there is some method to the madness. So I generally think that crypto is going to have a really good 12 to 18 months going forward, and that's the formation for my thesis. So there's a lot of good news potentially coming. So we may see spot Bitcoin ETFs approved in early January, and whilst that in itself I don't think is a big thing, it puts a pathway for a lot of money to enter into the crypto space that wasn't there before. So I think that's a positive. We've then got the Bitcoin halving coming up, probably in around April, although the date varies a little bit because it's not set on dates, it's set on block times. So again, I think that will be a really positive news. I think there's going to be a lot of positive news coming out around Ethereum, which is my largest crypto holding. And that's just because Ethereum in the past has struggled for scaling. As more people have wanted to use it, it's become a lot more expensive to use. And the first blocks for its scaling solutions are starting to come into place, with the first major code upgrade going to the testnet later in January, and then hopefully it'll be fully shipped in the first quarter of this year if everything goes smoothly. We've also got the Federal Reserve easing interest rate hikes. I've covered that in my newsletter in the last couple of weeks for those of you who are in the risk on investing community. Hopefully you found that really helpful as I've given my thoughts and where we might go from here. But if we do see a continued pause and even some cuts going into 2024, which is what's looking quite likely, if that gets paired with a mild recession or even no recession at all, I think that will be really good for risk on assets. So that will be growth stocks, crypto, that kind of side of things. So I think there's a lot of good signals lining up over the next 12 months, and MicroStrategy is really well placed for that. So if you're not aware, MicroStrategy is a software company, but that's not why I'm interested in them. Why I am interested in them is because about 95% of the company's value is in the Bitcoin that it holds, because it holds a huge amount of Bitcoin. And what's great about it is it's a slightly leveraged Bitcoin holding as well. So MicroStrategy have bought some Bitcoin using debt, they've issued new shares to buy Bitcoin, and they also tend to hold a lot of their cash reserves in Bitcoin. So that means as Bitcoin's price goes up, MicroStrategy's share price moves up. And that's great because I can hold MicroStrategy in tax-advantaged accounts here in the UK, so pension wrappers and stocks and shares wrappers, whereas I can't with the actual crypto underlying holdings. And if that wasn't good enough, MicroStrategy itself is a leveraged position. So only in this last week, MicroStrategy announced that they bought another $600 million worth of Bitcoin, and they did that by issuing new shares. Because the shares trade at a premium to Bitcoin's price, that means when they issue shares and convert those shares directly into Bitcoin, whilst I get diluted in terms of the total number of shares being held by the company, I don't actually get diluted in the amount of Bitcoin that each share entitles me to. In fact, it actually goes up when their share price trades at a premium and they do a share issuance to buy Bitcoin. And so that's partly why my portfolio has done so well this month. The only other thing that's worth mentioning that isn't here in the portfolio numbers is my VC investing. So VC investing is venture capital or private equity investing, and that's investing in companies that aren't publicly listed yet. Now it's a really high risk strategy, as you might have guessed from the channel name of Risk on Investor. That's the kind of things that I'm looking for. And I actually think I've found a really good position recently where I can pretty much make 100% paper gains straight away on demand as long as I can put money into it for now. And I'm going to start sharing a bit more about that with people in the Risk on Investor community. So if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, you can do that in the links below. And I'm going to start talking about that a little bit more in the coming months, but I probably won't share much about it here on YouTube. So is there anything changing in the portfolio this month? Well, not really. With my main position being in MicroStrategy at the moment, and that's probably a 12-month horizon trade, there's not going to be a huge amount of movement in the portfolio at the moment. The only thing I am currently working on is how to transfer some of my crypto holdings into tax-sheltered accounts without incurring too much tax liability. And that's something that I'm just going to have to work on over time. I'd love to hear your comments on the portfolio. I'd love to hear how your portfolio did this month. And if you're interested in following my journey, please subscribe to the channel below. And if you want to hear more about my venture capital investing and also receive my market news roundups, you can join the newsletter again with a link in the description. And if you want to see more of my journey to the £1 million investment portfolio, you can watch the full playlist with the link here that's going to pop up on the screen in front of my face. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon in the next video. Bye.